me cold duck and call it service. This is an outrage.
Ma'am, I need you to lower your voice and step back. I can replace the dish, but you can't speak to me like
Please,
that.
let's all take a moment. I'm sure this can be worked
out.
Don't just stand there. Fix it! Her voice sliced through the glittering silence of the gala. Cameras flashed, guests froze. The billionaire's wife, Evelyn Harrington, stared at her plate as bitterness curled across her tongue, her perfect smile breaking. Across the room, the new black chef stood still, calm, unflinching, watching the woman everyone feared finally lose control. No one understood what had just happened, or why this one dish had shaken the Queen of Westbridge to her core. This isn't just a story about food. It's about truth, power, and the taste of karma. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. From the outside, the Harrington mansion looked like perfection, all glass, steel, and sculpted gardens overlooking the quiet wealth of Westbridge Hills. Inside, it was a world built on rules. Every footstep had a rhythm, every voice a limit. The chandeliers glowed, the marble floors reflected lives polished for show. But those who worked there knew the truth. The shine came from fear. That fear had a name. Evelyn Harrington. The billionaire's wife, impeccably dressed, flawlessly poised, and utterly merciless. Her beauty was legendary, her cruelty whispered. To the outside world, she was elegance itself, but within those walls, she ruled with an invisible whip. Servants learned early that one mistake, a smudge on the silver, a breath too loud, could end their employment before sunset. When Naomi Carter arrived, she didn't know all this. She came from Atlanta, a young black chef with a dream, a quiet determination, and a resume built on pure talent. Cooking wasn't just her skill, it was her language, her way of creating warmth where none existed. And for the first time, she thought her hard work had opened a real door. The Harringtons wanted the best, and she was ready to prove she belonged among them. But from the moment Naomi stepped into the mansion's grand kitchen, she sensed the air was different. Too quiet, too polished. The other staff smiled, but their eyes carried warnings. She saw the way they stiffened when Evelyn entered, the silence that fell like a spell. Still, Naomi told herself to stay focused, to work hard, to earn respect. Yet deep down, something unsettled her. Not just in Evelyn's gaze, but in the unspoken truth that power here was not just wealth, but cruelty dressed in silk. And soon, Naomi would learn that even in a house of riches, some souls are starving for something far darker. The first few days passed in a careful rhythm. Naomi rose before dawn, her footsteps echoing softly through the mansion's endless halls. She prepared meals that could have graced five-star restaurants: seared salmon with citrus glaze, handmade pastries, roasted vegetables brushed with olive oil and rosemary. Evelyn Harrington barely looked at her, but when she did, her gaze lingered too long, sharp and assessing. The staff began to whisper. They said Evelyn hated anyone new. No one lasted longer than a month in her service. Some left in tears. Others simply disappeared, dismissed without warning. Naomi listened but refused to believe fear was her future. She had faced worse than a cruel employer. At least here, she thought, her work could speak for her, but it didn't take long for the tests to begin. It started with little things. A dish criticized not for taste but for temperature. A plate returned untouched because the colors didn't feel elegant. Evelyn's tone was always calm, her words coated in condescension. Naomi smiled, apologized, and tried again, until she realized it wasn't about the food. It was about her. At dinner one evening, Evelyn's husband, Richard Harrington, complimented Naomi's dessert, a caramel tart that melted like silk. Evelyn's fork paused mid-air. The smile she gave her husband was as thin as glass. The next morning, Naomi found the entire dessert menu replaced with one of Evelyn's choosing. Soon, Evelyn began hosting dinner parties, lavish displays of wealth and superiority. Naomi worked tirelessly, preparing each course to perfection. But every event ended the same way, Evelyn taking credit for her chef's inspiration, while quietly belittling Naomi in front of guests. She's learning, Evelyn would say sweetly, but not quite refined yet. Behind closed doors, the staff saw everything. The glares, the humiliation, yet none dared to intervene. "Keep your head down," whispered Marta, the housekeeper. "It's safer that way," but Naomi wasn't built to bow. Every cutting remark, every insult disguised as elegance, only fueled her resolve. She poured her defiance into her cooking, infusing each dish with a quiet rebellion, a flavor Evelyn couldn't control. Then came the charity gala. 100 guests, cameras, reporters, a night meant to showcase Evelyn's grace and generosity. Naomi was tasked with crafting the entire 5-course menu, and for the first time, she was allowed creative freedom. It was the perfect chance to prove herself. The kitchen pulsed with tension that night. Staff rushed between counters, the scent of truffle butter and seared lamb filling the air. Naomi's hands moved with precision, her focus unbreakable. But just before the first course, Evelyn swept in. Flawless in a gown of white silk, her diamond necklace gleaming like armor. She glanced at Naomi's dishes, lips curling in disdain. "You're serving that to my guests?" she said softly, eyes narrowing. "How bold!" The words hung heavy. But Naomi didn't flinch. "Yes, ma'am," she replied evenly. "I thought something honest might surprise them." Evelyn said nothing more, but her silence was louder than fury. As the evening unfolded, guests raved over the food, the balance, the flavor, the warmth they said they could taste in every bite. But when Evelyn lifted her spoon to try the final course, something in her expression changed. The sweetness she expected wasn't there. Instead, a strange bitterness spread across her face, subtle, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Her guests noticed. Cameras flashed, and for the first time in years, Evelyn Harrington's perfect composure cracked. Naomi stood in the shadows, calm and still, her eyes meeting Evelyn's across the room. No words, no apology, only truth, finally served cold. For a long, suspended moment, the room froze. Crystal glasses hovered mid-air, conversations faltered, and every camera turned toward Evelyn Harrington. Her face, usually a mask of perfection, twisted as the bitter flavor hit her tongue. She tried to hide it, tried to smile, but the bitterness wouldn't fade. Her throat tightened. Her expression wavered between confusion and anger, then fear. The dessert Naomi had served wasn't poisoned, it was something far sharper, truth disguised as taste. The dish, called Karma's Bite, was Naomi's creation, cocoa dark as midnight, infused with bitter orange and burnt sugar, meant to remind the tongue of what cruelty tastes like when it circles back. Whispers spread. "What happened? Is she okay?" The guests leaned in, curious, then cautious, as Evelyn's perfect facade shattered. She turned toward Naomi, eyes wide, realizing too late that the flavor she found so offensive wasn't an accident. It was a message. Naomi didn't move. She stood by the kitchen door, steady, her white chef's coat a quiet statement of defiance. No anger, no apology, only a calm dignity that filled the silence Evelyn left behind. And in that silence, every servant in the mansion felt something stir, the fear that had ruled their lives, starting to crumble. For the first time, Evelyn Harrington wasn't feared. She was exposed, and Naomi, the quiet, proud chef, had done what no one else dared. She made the queen of cruelty taste herself. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments! The gala ended early that night. Guests left whispering, unsure whether to pity or judge the billionaire's wife who had finally met a taste she couldn't control. By morning, the tabloids had their headlines. "The Queen of Westbridge loses her composure." Behind the grand gates, Evelyn's fury burned silently. But something had changed. The staff no longer looked away when she entered. The fear had loosened its grip. Naomi didn't boast. She didn't gloat. She simply packed her knives and walked out at sunrise, leaving behind the scent of roasted almonds and quiet rebellion. She hadn't humiliated Evelyn, she had revealed her. Sometimes truth doesn't shout. It just tastes different. Weeks later, word spread of Naomi's new restaurant, a small, warm place in the city built on honesty and soul. Her dishes weren't fancy. They were real. People came not just to eat, but to feel something again. Evelyn never apologized, but the mansion was never the same. The fear that once ruled its halls had dissolved into uneasy silence, the kind that comes after a storm that no one saw coming. Naomi's act wasn't vengeance. It was a reflection, a mirror held up to power, a lesson served on a silver plate. Because sometimes, the most powerful statement against cruelty isn't a shout or a fight. It's the quiet courage to stand firm and let truth do the speaking. How many more truths must be swallowed before the world finally learns to taste them? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful, heartfelt stories.